For many, a war in the 21st century was unthinkable, but it happened. And with it, it changed almost everything. Tonight on WION Pulse, we are going to decode 5 ways the Russia-Ukraine war has changed the world in the past 12 months. It is the first major conflict since World War II. So the war did catch many off guard. The realization that it gave birth to 3 different political constellations. 1, those who pledged support to Ukraine. 2, those who sided with Putin's Russia. And a 3rd group that remained non-aligned. But once the United States put its weight behind Ukraine, it attracted the existing European alliance. And since then, there has been a constant tussle for NATO to prove how united it is. So much so that Joe Biden's need to prove Vladimir Putin wrong seems more important than rooting for Ukraine. This brings us to our next point. The war has made Russia a pariah in the West. Its oligarchs have been sanctioned, businesses blacklisted, and international brands are fast disappearing. But Putin has found his friends too. China, India, Iran, Africa have not only maintained even ties in an echo of the Cold War. The world is divided into 2 camps and it's already changing the world order. Speaking of the Cold War, since the end of it, the threat of nuclear weapons had lessened. The war changed that. We've seen regular nuclear weapon threats being issued. Some veiled, some not so much. And we're not just talking about Russia. If there is one thing we've learned, it is that there is no one villain in any war. It takes 2 hands to clap. It also takes 2 hands to fight. And the Ukraine war is no exception. The US president declared the risk of a nuclear Armageddon to be at its highest level in 60 years. And now Russia has quit the only nuclear agreement there was with the United States. We are talking about 2 countries with the biggest stockpiles of nuclear weapons in the world. The war's economic impact has also been felt globally. From chilly homes in Europe to food markets in Africa. Before the Ukraine war, European Union nations imported almost half of their natural gas and a 1/3 of their oil from Russia. But the invasion delivered an energy price shock on a scale not seen since the 1970s. The war disrupted global trade. Something as basic as food has become a geopolitical football. Russia has sought to blame the West for high prices, while Ukraine accuses Russia of using hunger as a weapon. The war has really highlighted the fragility of an interconnected world. And that brings us to our last important point. The conflict is a stark reminder that individuals have little control over the course of history and the future. Ask the 43 million Ukrainians. The war has shattered peace for others too. It has brought uncertainty and anxiety. But more than anything, it has taught the world once again that the thirst for power never ends. For more on this story, we are now joined by our correspondent Susan Teherani from the United Nations headquarters in New York, and also Anas Malik, who has been reporting from Ukraine. He's currently in Mykolaiv. Thanks so much to both of you for joining us. Susan, if I could come to you first. The United Nations is going to take up this matter again on the eve of the 1st anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We have seen big speeches being made by some of the most high-profile leaders of the world in the last few days. What can we expect later today?
Yeah, this is a vote that this is a special emergency session that is a resumption of the 11th special session of the General Assembly. And, this is regarding Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And the first session was opened on February 28th, 2022, and it has been adjourned basically several times throughout the past year, and resolutions have been passed. But these resolutions are non-binding, and one after the other, member states have been pleading for Russia to abide by the UN Charter of Integrity, Equality, going back to territorial integrity of Ukraine's borders. And so this vote really is going to once again signify most of the countries, I presume, that they're united in really calling for Russia to pull its troops out of Ukraine, because based on the draft text that we've seen, the General Assembly is going to be very keen on saying that the only way that if there's going to be lasting peace is if Russia does pull all of its troops out of Ukraine. There's no middle ground regarding, reaching some kind of ceasefire or peace deal. So, it's a long process. It's a session that is usually adjourned when the Security Council can't really reach a conclusion. And while these resolutions are non-binding, member states hope that it does really provide a framework and a prelude to where countries stand, and possibly some pressure on Russia and its allies to change course, perhaps.
All right, but is that really going to happen? Anas, let me come to you now. Tomorrow, that's the 24th of February, marks the first anniversary of this war. A lot has been said by leaders of these two countries as well as the US president in the last couple of days. You've been reporting from different parts of Ukraine. You are in Mykolaiv at the moment. There's been fear expressed in several quarters that Russia could step up its offensive in the run-up to this date. What is the current situation like on the ground where you are?
Well, Neha, we're in Mykolaiv right now, which is towards the southern part of the country, and the situation here is grim. This is the time that the sun's already set, and we're looking at renewed attacks or potentially intensified attacks from the Russian side in about some hours from now, in order to what it is said is, quote, commemorate the attack or the anniversary of its special militarized operations, unquote. That's what is being hinted at. We've already seen, not far from where I am right now, in Kherson, there has been renewed shelling and intensified shelling rather being done. The Ukrainian military and intelligence has been warning people of a major Russian intensification in the next 24 to 36 hours, at least until the 26th of February, that is until Sunday. They've asked people to remain vigilant. But if I talk to you what has changed in a year, well, certainly what people are now doing, they've become desensitized to these air raid sirens by and large, and what happens is that when air raid sirens like these they go off, we see lesser and lesser people taking shelter or going towards the shelter. It's like business as usual. Of course, that is one of the reasons as well that civilian casualties have been more and more. But that is, again, at the same point, that is no justification for targeting civilians. Russia says that it is targeting military infrastructure. But what we've seen in the past 1 year, last year I was here as well, when the invasion had just happened. And now, again, at the anniversary, I'm here. And we're seeing that more or less the attacks have been at civilian infrastructure and lesser on the military side. Neha?
Well, the attacks are only accelerating. What will year 2 of this war bring? A war that has had a devastating impact not just on Ukraine but indeed the entire world. Well, this is a story we'll continue to track very closely with both of you. For now, Susan Tehrani and Anas Malik, thanks for joining us. Well, for more on this, we earlier spoke to Bishop Garrison. He is a fellow at National Security Institute at George Mason School of Law.
You see the Ukrainian people, their hearts, their resilience are completely towards maintaining their independence and fighting off this Russian aggression. And you see Russia more and more becoming isolated in the geopolitical sphere. And it's unclear what they believe they're going to actually be able to gain from the outset of this conflict. So I think that we're in for the long haul, as you said yourself. This is the second largest land conflict that we've seen in Europe since World War II. There seems to be no indications that there's going to be an end to it anytime soon. Both sides are digging in and allies are pushing forward. We want to see a free and independent Ukraine once again.